Hey, what's going on, everybody? Millsy here, and today we're bringing another Flesh and Blood TCG video, not gameplay, because this is a deck tech, and this is going to be my hybrid build that I play for Dromai. You might find some similarities of this particular deck, like online, of some of the competitive decks that are currently out there floating around, with a few variances. So obviously we got Dromai and her Storm of Sandakai. I'm going to kind of split up the armor pieces here into three different kind of segments, and we're going to go over kind of the aggro builds that are out there. I know the meta is kind of shifting more towards control, but this deck is more of a control type deck. It's able to kind of keep pace. I mean, it's the deck that you guys see me playing on the gameplay videos. I'll go ahead and show you guys like what the sideboard would be for aggro. The sideboard would be for if you're going against a deck that has a lot of poppers, and then kind of your heavy arcane damage. And then there's of course a few variances with the arcane, because you got rune blades still floating around, which do a lot of split damage. But I'll go ahead and kind of split wizards and rune blades apart, and we'll kind of go from there. Alright, so what you currently see on the board right now is my setup for when I'm going against rune blades or aggro decks. So the reason for this particular setup is Crown of Providence helps me cycle through my deck. It allows me to basically have a sink below out of my arsenal and bottom the card without it being threatened if someone plays a CNC, as well as just make sure that that card is being second cycled. So that's like a really huge plus. Crown is just a fantastic card. The argument for Skullcap is this deck is blocking a lot. You do take some damage, but you're blocking a lot. So it's really a 50-50 on whether or not you're gonna get the full value out of it. And then of course Flame Scale Furnace, because we are running so many D-reacts, it allows us to kind of fuel the ash creation that much more. Of course you bring Silken Form for the Quell, because Quell is just a really good mechanic. It also gives you an Aether Ashwing as an instant if you have pre-existing ash beforehand. So the way to get around that is you declare your quelling, pitch a red card, boom, now you have an ash. Like before you get to the end phase, you want to make sure that you're declaring that you're destroying Silken Form to create that Aether Ashwing. So that's very important, because once it gets to the end phase, as it specifically states on the card, if your hero would be dealt damage, you may pay 1 to prevent 1 of that damage. If you do, destroy Silken Form at the beginning of the end phase. So at the beginning of the end phase, it becomes destroyed. So you have to turn it into an Aether Ashwing before the end phase. Yeah, so this is kind of the loadout that I bring for that kind of, or those kinds of decks. It's going to be rune blades, warriors, really kind of your heavy physical, like smaller attack heroes. So not guardians, not brutes. And Briar is kind of a mix in there with the Channel Mount heroics, because that can still pop your Phantasmal Footsteps, because all it takes is an attack with the value of 6 or more if you defend with these to pop them. And you don't want that, because that really does halt your ash generation and kind of free blocks too. You know, if worse comes to worse, you could always bring Silent Stilettos. Silent Stilettos work good. They're just really expensive. It costs 3, but it also comes with Arcane Barrier. So there is an argument that when you're going against rune blades, that Silent Stilettos might be the way to go. The setup that I would have against guardians and brutes in particular, this is going to be very simple. You're just going to see me take these 2 off, and we're going to bring back the Silent Stilettos, and we're also going to bring in a Ghostly Touch. I find that Ghostly Touch is incredibly undervalued for what it is. I'm playing games against guardians, they're popping everything left and right. A lot of aggro decks might not, but like Oldham will. I mean, I know he has a lot of D-reacts, but you know, there is a surfacing Hold'em deck where it's getting more mid-rangey, more aggro-y, and not just sitting there throwing staunch responses and sinks and fates in your face. Having a ghostly touch for when they pop something and then throwing a semblance at it if you have a lot of counters on it can be very deadly. So with ghostly touch, it's something that you kind of want to end your turn on because it is not a dragon ally. So Sash of Sandakai does not give it go again. Sash of Sandakai reads dragon allies you control, and ghostly touch is remove a haunt counter from ghostly touch until the end of turn. This becomes an illusionist ally, not dragon ally, illusionist ally. So it does not have go again. Let's go ahead and move on to the like wizardy setup. With wizard, you have a couple options here. So if you notice, I have a silken form in my arm slot and a silent stilettos. Silent stilettos has arcane barrier 1, but one thing to also remember is the sheer fact that your aether ashwings have arcane barrier 1 as well. It's in your best interest to try and get aether ashwings out, but also still having the ability to block whatever is coming in via your equipment. And so now let's kind of get into the actual cards that I play and what I sideboard into these different matchups. Okay, so now that we got all the cards laid out, I got everything split up into 3 different sections here. This is all going to be my defense package that I tend to bring to every single matchup no matter what. My non-attack actions are in this row. My invocations, which I know are technically non-attack actions, but they're invocations, are lined up here. So my dragons, and then my attack action cards. In total, in the core of this list, there is 3, 6, 9, 12 blues. So we're not exactly struggling with having blues to get Tumultai off, with also retaining other cards in hand to go even wider. We'll go ahead and start with the defensive package. The defensive package is going to be your typical red Sink Belows, your red Fate for Scenes. Oasis Respite is a fantastic card to negate like Rosetta Thorns. And also one thing to remember as well is that if you play a Fate for Scene or a Sink Below, it does turn on Furnace, so you can pitch a red card into it. Just say you have a dud card that you don't want in hand. Early game, you might not want a Burn Them All or a red Rake the Embers in your hand. You might want to save that for later. Go ahead and pitch into your Furnace to generate yourself an Ash. After the Oasis Respites, which, like I said, blocks off the Rosetta Thorns really well. As well as is just a super solid card to have in the deck, one of the best cards to come out in Uprising. You have your Sigil of Solaces, amazing card, turns on your dragons on your turn, or it's just a great way to just retain life if you don't need it to regain the go again. All in all, your hero starts at 40 health. This row has the ability to go up to 52 total health throughout the game. The reason why I say 52 is purely because each red sigil gives you +3 life, and then the Oasis Respite, if you're at a lower health total than your opponent when you play it, you gain 1 life. So keep that in mind. You got Burn Them All. Fantastic card for dealing that split damage arcane. It's also a 0 cost red. Works perfectly in tandem with really any dragon. Your red Rake the Embers for the ability to just spit out baby dragons or Aether Ashwings. Blue Rake the Embers for the pitch. And a Passing Mirage to help protect your dragons that much more from getting popped. I want my opponents to attack my dragons. I don't want them to pop them. So I'll play a Passing Mirage and then I'll bring out like an Optimi or something, right? That way, I can just make sure that the full effect is going to take place, and then on their turn they have to waste cards at attacking my dragons. So Passing Mirage is just a fantastic card to have in your deck. If you don't need it at the moment, you know, let's just say you already have one in play, your opponent's kind of ignoring it for the time being because it does have Spectra, you can use it to pitch towards a higher cost dragon. So that covers our non-attack action row. Let's go ahead and get to the dragons. So Tamotai, he's like my MVP. I did pull the Marvel version of him. He's one of my favorite looking Marvels in the entire set, but he's a 5 cost. And of course that comes with him attacking for 5 and having 5 health. So he's beyond a break point for most cards. And so usually there's going to be a 2 card dedication going towards Tamotai, and for me that's 2 cards that are not coming towards me. The added value that he has is also taking out a piece of equipment from your opponent, and the way it works is you pitch to pay for him, so you invoke him, and then when you're finally attacking with him, you reveal the top 2 cards off your deck. If both are red, then you get to choose a piece of equipment and do -1 counters on their piece of equipment for how many red cards you revealed off the top of your deck. You reveal 2, you get -2 on a piece of equipment that your opponent controls, and it gets destroyed. It doesn't go down to 0, it gets destroyed. So yeah, that is huge, especially against like ninjas with mask momentum. Dominia, another solid card. She costs 4, attacks for 4, health is for 4. You reveal the top card of your deck when you declare that you're attacking with her. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a red, you now get to look at your opponent's hand and banish a card out of it. And if you guys looked at the last gameplay video that we did, I got Dominia off very early, and I was able to banish a Crippling Crush out of Bravo's hand. Therefore, throughout the game, he was only able to get off 2 Crippling Crushes, and I kind of believe that that's what saved me, because I did have to deal with 2, but I also had 3 unmovables as well as all the other defensive reactions in my deck to kind of cover for those 2. So I was able to kind of hold on to D-reacts, wait for those hard hitting cards. But yeah, that's just an example of a situation where Dominia probably saved the game for me as early as it came out. Vincerikai is a glass cannon. He threatens up to 9 damage. He only has 1 health, so a Kodachi can kill him. The way that he works is he costs 3, he attacks for 6 physical damage, and then if he hits it all, he deals 3 arcane. And it's something that they have to pay attention to. You know that they're going to dedicate a card to attacking it, and they're not going to let a Vincerikai sit around. I'm only running 2 of them, and the reason for that is we already have a lot of high cost dragons that we're bringing in this suite. I don't want to have to struggle, even with all the blues in the deck. I mean, the core of this deck, this is 56 cards core. We're running 3, 6, 9, 12 blues. A lot of those blues might have to be used for wider turns where you draw into 3 1-cost dragons, or maybe a Vincerikai or the Majestic Dragons. You don't want to stretch yourself too thin. I found that having 3, I've always had a turn where I had to pitch 3 reds to get 1 Vincerikai off for him to only demand 1 card from my opponent the comeback turn if it's not popped. That to me was not worth it. So having 2 allows it to kind of like thin out within the deck. When I see it, most of the time I'll probably have a Passing Mirage on here, so it's protected. It'll demand 1 card out of their deck. Invoke Miragai. Your first dragon attack loses Phantasm. It's a 1 cost. I mean, it's just another way to protect your dragons. If I have a Passing Mirage on the board, I'll try to still put a Miragai out. It's not my highest priority. If I have another dragon in hand, I'll more than likely play that other dragon if I have a Passing Mirage out. I usually don't want to play all these at once, because I want all the protection of my dragons. I want spread out throughout the entire game. I'm not gonna put out more than 1 Miragai on the board if I can help it. As well as just a solid card. Again, running all three. It's a 0 cost. It comes in for 2 physical, technically 2 arcane, but it's 1 to up to 2 targets. You can only target a hero once. Just a really good value card, being split damage. He's like a miniature Rosetta Thorn. Caloria, really solid dragon. Probably my favorite. If your opponent is not running a deck where they have items, the threat of drawing a card to potentially go that much wider or set up your arsenal for a next turn, the value is amazing. It's only a 1 cost, attacks for 4, and yeah, has 2 health. The value in it, they're more than likely gonna block it because no one likes anybody drawing cards in this game. And Yenderai, the first 3 damage, so he has 3 health, but he has a endurance counter that prevents 3 damage. More than likely gonna demand 2 cards out of most decks. Dromai, when he attacks, gives you an action point. When he leaves the arena, then, which means he's dead, action point. I know I kind of skipped over Optimi and just kind of read down, so we'll just go ahead and go over Optimi right now as he's the last dragon. So the reason why I have him in this deck, he's the most expensive dragon out of all the 3 majestic dragons at 6. I wasn't running him initially, and I took him to a couple armories and realize that the value is so incredibly high. The cost is what scared me. I didn't think I wanted to run as many blues as I am running now. The fact that I went up to this many blues in my core allowed for that flexibility. Anyway, so you pay 6 to invoke him, which means you need an Ash, and then you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. The top 3 cards, for how many red cards you reveal, he deals twice that much arcane damage. He costs 6, deals 6 physical damage, has 6 health, and can deal up to 6 arcane damage every time he attacks. He can threaten 12 damage. That's huge. The fact that you know your opponent is going to attack it, that just means that you're retaining that much more life when you're going back at them. You don't have to spend as many cards blocking when they finally kill it and decide to come after you if they have that many cards left in hand. So let's go ahead and move on to the attack action cards. Billowing Mirage, red, and Sweeping Blow red. Sweeping Blow red is really obvious. It's a 3 go again without Phantasm. It generates an Ash when you play it. So if I pitch a red, play Sweeping Blow, I'm generating 2 total Ash, 1 from the pitch and 1 from the effect of the card. Billowing Mirage, when you play Billowing Mirage, not only is it a red card to turn on your dragons, same with Sweeping Blow, but it also can transform up to 1 Aether or 1 Ash into an Aether Ashwing. If you're kind of at the end of the game, like it's mid to late game, that's when I'm going to start utilizing that ability. Depending on my opponent, early game, I'm not going to. Against Guardians and stuff, I'm definitely going to. Blue Billowing Mirage and blue Sweeping Blow, just for the pitch. And of course, the abilities. Sometimes you get those dud hands where you get 3 dragons and you might get a blue Sweeping Blow. You know, it just sucks. In this way, you'll be able to pitch some sort of red dragon to generate an Ash, as well as play the blue Sweeping Blow. Now you gain 2 Ash. Then let's just say you have a 0 cost dragon left in hand. If you want to play it, you can now play it. So this is the core of the deck. Let's go ahead and clean this all up, and I'll show you guys what the remaining cards are that I throw into each matchup. Here is what I have as my sideboard. Now remember, this deck is 56 cards core. I'm really bringing an additional 4 to 5 cards extra just to get to that 60 to 61 cards. So we got 56 cards here. Against Warriors, I'm not bringing Semblance. Let's just say I'm going against Bolton. If it's Sabers, Bolton, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my Sand Covers and Erase Faces to kind of halt his turns. Play the Erase Faces when I can, because I don't know when that Lumina, well, you can kind of guess based off of how many cards are in their soul. But Erase Face and Sand Covers, just in case on the Lumina turn I have Sand Covers and D-Reacts in my hand, I'm able to utilize my Ash. This is a 0 cost red, so I just use my Ash and I gain Ward 4. If I'm able to block that much of a saber turn, yeah, I'm going to. So that, with the defensive suite that we have and the ability to kind of nullify hopefully up to 3 of his turns and slow him down, that's what I would bring against Bolton. But like Dawnblade Dory, that's much different. So I'm not bringing Erase Faces because Erase Face does absolutely nothing to Dory. All it is just an attack action card that blocks for 2, hits for 6, and just turns her cards into generics. All right, so against Dory, we're bringing 3 unmovables, and you may ask why 3 unmovables. That's a 3-cost D-React that is for 8. Well, eventually you're going to have to start attacking Dawnblade Dory. You can't let her sit at 40 health your entire life, and you don't have that many attack action cards in your deck. You're going to use your dragons to attack. And, well, that means that you have a board state that Dawnblade Dory can just attack and ramp up her Dawnblades. What you do is, when you draw into an unmovable, and just pray that you draw into one, as early as you can, you want to pocket that as soon as possible into your arsenal. And then on her first attack, you want to just overblock it with an unmovable if they got counters on it. If they don't got counters on it, use your regular D-Reacts and just hold on to it in case you run into a turn where they get a counter, and so it comes in for 4 base or 5 base. The unmovables really help just kind of stack that up. If they got counters on it, and I know that I haven't played a red unmovable yet, I'm going to play it because I know I have 2 more coming, as well as my other defensive reactions. I'm also bringing sand covers due to the ward 4. Ward 4 prevents 4 of the damage, and it is an instant. Basically, the whole thing is to prevent Dory from getting counters on her Dawnblade. It's just another defensive reaction. I'm only bringing 2 of these because we already have enough in the core deck with the Fate for Scenes, the Sink Belows. We're now bringing the 3 red unmovables to kind of stop those counter turns, knock off the counters, I guess you can say. I do not want Dawnblade Dory to get counters. That's your worst enemy, because your dragons are just sitting ducks, and she's just sitting there saying, I attack you, my sword is now that much stronger. I attack you, my sword is that much stronger. So you kind of, it's a balancing game when you're going against Dawnblade Dory. So sand covers and unmovables is what I'm bringing. I have a video on the channel. I suggest watching it if you're kind of, baffled or confused as to why I would bring these D-Reacts. Let's go ahead and get into the good old ninja matchup. I'm bringing 3 Nekrias and an Uvia. These are incredibly high health dragons that they have to dedicate more than a couple cards to. For example, Nekria attacks for 4 and has 7 health to start, but she just generates ash. She's an ash generating machine, and I'm only bringing 1 Uvia because she costs 2. We're bringing 3 more dragons that cost 3. So with the 2 Vincericais in the deck and the 3 Nekrias, that's putting us at 5 3-cost dragons. That's pretty high, but the return that you get from it is the defensive value, where they kind of have to dedicate multiple cards in order to kill it. My play partner on the channel, Cam, plays lots of ninja. You'll see me playing Nekria, probably not so much Uvia, because either A, I don't get the chance to play her, or at the time I don't have the pitch to get her off, which sounds weird, but it's just a solid little combo if you're able to. And when you do get these into the arena, they're gonna demand a lot of attention from the ninja, because if they're not gonna kill Nekria, they're just letting you swing for 4 every turn with Go Again, generating ash for up to 6 turns or 7 turns. Your Runeblade matchups is always going to be Erase Face and Sand Covers. You already have 3 Oasis Respites in your deck to prevent Rosetta, but Sand Cover also, it has Ward 4. That's not prevent 4 damage from a source, but it's ward 4. So it's just some extra blockage. And then a raised face to kind of shut down the Runeblade cards in general, as well as the Briars to channel mount heroic, fuse, stuff like that. Their cards just become generic at that point. So let's go into the Brute and Guardian matchup. Semblance and Unmovables, real simple. So Semblance is somewhat of a meme card that people didn't, I think, appreciate for what it can possibly do. It is a very expensive card as a blue. Essentially, it's an instant that negates Phantasm triggered effects. Brute or a Guardian reveals a 6 or more attack. You can then instant in Semblance to prevent it from being popped. Really, what you're looking for in the Guardian and Brute matchup is your Ghostly Touch. If I see the Semblance early game, obviously pitching it. I'm waiting for my Ghostly Touch to has enough counters to where I can present lethal with it from whatever health that they're at. Then I want to make sure that I have enough resource to activate the Ghostly Touch, which costs 3, and then enough resource to activate the Semblance, which costs 3. So you're looking for a blue dominant hand at that point. But that's mostly what you're pitching into those types of matchups anyways. And with these 2 extra added blues of Semblance, you're running a total of 14 blues in the entire deck out of what would be 61 cards. So it's really not that bad. Dromai is a second cycle deck, and especially against Guardian and Brute, you're going to want to defend your little heart away until your Ghostly Touch has enough counters on it. If you guys have any questions about any matchups, and if I have enough experience into it to kind of help guide you through it, let me know. And I hope you guys enjoy this. This is my first deck tech. I know it's probably a little bit scuffed, but I'm doing my best here. I'm probably jumping around from subject to subject. And I will have this up on FABTCG. The link to the deck will be in the description. I have multiple Dromai decks. This is what I call just the hybrid deck. Essentially, it's a very flexible deck. It can do a lot of things, but it has some weaknesses, and it's just a matter of kind of fleshing out those weaknesses and refining it. And if you've seen decks very similar to this, and if you notice that, hey, this would actually be really weak into this, why don't you run this? Just let me know down below. You know, it might not be something that I thought about, or maybe I just haven't had the chance to test it yet. So if you guys would like more of this type of content, I do have a couple other Dromai decks that might interest some people, one of which I will be featuring in a gameplay video when we record it tomorrow. So it'll probably come out on Thursday or next Monday, or next Tuesday, sorry. Yeah, just let me know what you think down below. All right, guys, have a good one. See ya.